So this is part of what we're doing. So this new power supply, which is an actually quiet power supply. Tom's didn't like it, but I think Tom's is wrong. And we're also installing these nifty sleeved cable extensions from Asia Horse. What I'm doing today is I'm going to be installing some cables and a new power supply in my desktop computer. This is the new case. It's pretty snazzy. I'm pretty happy with it. It is a Silverstone RL05, which was a bit of a pain to track down. I really wanted. I'm still using optical drives. I really wanted the 5¼ inch bay, but I also really wanted a mesh front. I've been watching a lot of the Gamers Nexus guys' videos, and they've successfully convinced me that the path to a quiet build is to have good airflow with PWM fans. So I really wanted a good mesh front. And the combination of that with the 5¼ inch bay was nearly impossible to find. It was hard first just to identify the case that I wanted, that I wanted one of these Redline 05s, and then finding one and actually acquiring it was also a bit of an adventure. I went through 3 online retailers. As you see, I've got the one with white trim. I wanted the one with black and red trim. 3 of them swore up and down that they had it, and they did not. And one of them had the black with white trim or the white with red trim in stock. So I didn't want the white with red trim. As much as I wanted the red trim, the white is just too much. Doesn't really go with the rest of my setup. And so I wound up with that. So that came a few days ago, and I got the components transferred over from my old system. So this is like a 10-year-old case. It's a silence-focused case. It's the Antec Sonata 3. It's a really old design, but I kind of operate on a if it ain't broke, don't fix it principle. I had an Antec Sonata 2. That was my very first gaming computer that I put together when I went off to college in 2004. Yeah, 2004. I'd had the Antec Sonata 2. A friend had basically who was more into this, had basically given me, these were the specs for the computer that he put together for himself, and so I just bought those things and put it together, and it worked great for a long time. But so I liked it enough, and I didn't really, I wasn't, again, super clued into it. So I had a friend also, so I did a similar thing, a different friend who was much more into gaming. I got specs for his computer, and pretty sure he had used the Sonata 3 case, and so that was what I got. And look, it was a great case. The build quality is super high. I'm actually selling it on eBay right now if anybody wants it. Makes a great Media server. I wound up putting multiple fans in it in order to keep, attempt to make some airflow happen, and it worked all right. But I kept having lockups, and I'm not running the super high-end graphics cards. Running a GTX 960, GTX 1660, and then most recently, and I kept having lockups when it was warm out, which was much more of a problem in Boston because we didn't have central air conditioning in the places that I lived, and so when it was hot out in the summer, I just couldn't game because the computer would lock up. And so then I moved to San Francisco, and that was much less of a problem, except it's been hot recently, or warm. San Francisco never really gets hot, and so I started, and I was running folding at home because COVID, it was a thing to do to support all of that. And so it ran fine for months and months and months, and then when it finally got warm out, briefly, it started locking up again. And so at this point, I'm also between gigs right now, and going stir crazy from spending all of my time at home because COVID, and not seeing other humans because of COVID. And so I fell down the YouTube rabbit hole finally of like gaming PC stuff, like trying to figure out what the heck was going on with this thing and how to, how to make it stop freezing, stop locking up hard. So I tried a bunch of different stuff. Like I tried, I was like, well, maybe it's a power issue, and I like misread some of the like readings in SpeedFan, which is this like fan and power control utility where like the BIOS, the like userland software on the computer doesn't always leak the same units, and so I was like, whoa, the 12 volt rail on this is at like 10 point something volts, like that's ridiculous, but it's like a 10-year-old power supply, so it seemed plausible that the capacitors had just like started to fail or whatever. Like electrolytic capacitors just like do that. You use them for long enough, and especially use them in hot environments, and so bought a new power supply. I did some research, although obviously not as much as I should have. We'll get to that in a minute, and wound up with an EVGA 650 watt like GA Supernova, which seemed fine. Like people online liked the EVGA power supply. The Sonata had a 500 watt power supply in it, which was the original one, like bronze rated, and it was great. Like I don't like need all of the power, and because I'm just like running mid-range stuff, and that's fine. But I was like, well, I would like a little bit more headroom if I do decide I want one of these like ray tracing cards at some point. I'm not going to be running like a multiple SLI, multiple processor, like Threadripper, bloody blah. I don't have need of it, but just a little bit more headroom would be nice. So I got the 650 watt and installed it in the old case first, but it was still getting lockups. The problem obviously wasn't power. And I kept fiddling around with like, well, maybe if I downclock the CPU or the GPU, maybe the problem is that like, the GPU I'm running, the EVGA FTW 1660 is like manufacturer overclocked. And so maybe if I downclock the GPU to like what it's supposed to be running, that'll be fine. And it wasn't. Maybe there's some sort of like timing issue. Or like maybe if I just like turn down the power and the like temperature, it's trying to run at, I'd set it at like 80% power and 73C 73C target, because it was like hitting 83C consistently in the case at full load, the Sonata case. That didn't work, so finally I gave up and bought a new case, but finally found that I have a vision for like LED, full ARGB LED software controlled. Like I've been looking at the builds that like folks like Bitwit Kyle are doing, and they're cool, and he's got a good aesthetic sense. Sit down. But I'm also looking at some of the software that's available, like this OpenRGB stuff, and like I don't think people are really making it sing the way that we could make it sing. And so I have grand visions, which we'll see to what extent I am able to realize them. I'm like moving in a few weeks. My life is apple cart upset, but like the vision is great. The vision is yeah. I like, just to give you an example of like, so I've got this fancy ergonomic keyboard that a friend of mine makes, the Keyboardio folks, Jesse and Kaya Vincent, over in Oakland. And so it's this fancy like wooden enclosure. It's like really very targeted at like programmers, people who type all day. It's a neat thing to have. And it's fully programmable, like open source software, the whole works. And so I actually went and ported this demo scene effect from the old, like the 80s, 90s era. So it's got this fire effect. I went and ported that to the keyboard, and that was just a super fun project. And I would love to like try to do something similar with the case, like the fans on the front of it, ARGB fans inside as well. Like, but if I got like a tower cooler and the like ARGB fans for it, then, and with sufficient software control, like, maybe, the fans on the CPU like transition from red to orange to yellow to white as the CPU utilization goes up. Same thing if I like got a lighted backplate for the GPU, or like I say, grand visions. But getting back to where we are today, problem with this build is that it's silent right now, but as soon as this gets under any kind of load, the power supply fan kicks up, and it sounds like a friggin' leaf blower. And to demonstrate, it's running. There we go. It's like about as bad as my old case was all the time, except because there's less sound damping, there's just a lot less, you get a lot more high frequency noise, and so it's like, it's not okay. I measured it, it's like 8 decibels, so it's not like super huge, but it's just enough. It's more than enough. See there, now it's down again, can't hear a thing. So I got frustrated with this. I had to set all the fans that I could control to like a known fixed level, and then put the system under load, and then the noise was still happening, and so then I knew it was either there was like a secret fan in my motherboard that I didn't know about, which there isn't, or it was the power supply. And then I put my hand behind it and I could feel the air coming out of the power supply. I was like, oh, okay. And that increasing as the noise increased. I was like, okay, this is where this is coming from. So went and did a bunch of research, and discovered, I don't know if this is like a power supply manufacturer thing or what, this eco mode thing that VGA has on this power supply is also something that a lot of other manufacturers have started to do. And so you go read power supply reviews from folks like Tom's Hardware or Cybernetics, who are apparently like the ranking system for noise output of power supplies. But you go read these reviews, and it's a classic case of like lying with averages, because you look at their charts of like this way. I don't know what if this video is being weird. So you look at these charts, and like for the first 50% of load on the power supply, it's 0 decibels. It's not running the fans at all. And then the load, as soon as you hit 50%, the fan turns on and the noise spikes up to like 25 or so decibels, all the way up to like 35 decibels at load, full load. And Tom still thinks that this is a quiet power supply because they average it out, across the full load curve, and they're like, oh, well, the average here is like 11 decibels or 15 decibels or something. This ranks much better than, these other power supplies. Cyber Reason does the same thing. You go look at their data. They're like, I think, being slightly more sophisticated about how they do the averaging, because like averaging sound is hard, like decibels are a logarithmic thing, and blah blah blah. But it's just like a power supply which produces more than 25 decibels for 50% of its load curve is not a quiet power supply. That is a loud power supply under any kind of reasonable use. So I went and bought a new power supply, and that's part of what we're doing today. So the plan for today is to swap out the EVGA power supply for a a Be Quiet straight power 11. It's also a 650 watt. It's like platinum instead of gold, which is fine. I think they have a gold, but it like wasn't available. The like computer hardware is ridiculously unobtainable. And we're also installing these nifty sleeved cable extensions from, can you see that? These nifty sleeved cable extensions from Asia Horse. I'm not getting paid for any of this. I bought this stuff with my own money. I'm not cool enough to do that, and like, I don't know, that sounds like work. I don't really want to get into the computer hardware review business. I would really like to convince somebody like the Gamers Nexus guys to go get into the power supply review business, because like I'm pretty sure they know that you can't just like take an average and cross. You can't just take an average like that. It's a like classic problem with statistics, but like, you know, like averages are wrong almost all of the time. You've got to come up with some better way of coming up with some kind of review score at the end. I'm not really sure if the like eco mode thing is a thing that the power supply manufacturers are doing to hack the reviewers. They've figured out that like the reviewers are unsophisticated about statistics in this way, and so they've, you know, decided that like you include this, you know, switch which turns the fans off for the first 50% of the you know, load curve, and you can call yourself a quiet power supply. And this must be like deeply frustrating to the folks at, you know, folks at places like Be Quiet, who really do like the maximum noise output of this straight power supply is like 20. Tom's measured it at like 21 decibels. They quote like it's like 14, 15 decibels. So like the noise output of this power supply at maximum is less than the noise output of the EVGA power supply at 50%. It's freaking ridiculous. So we're installing a good power supply today. Fortunately, Newegg will take the open box return, so like perfect. Thank you. I have learned something from this, so let's get the desktop shut down and the phone mounted, and let's do some PC installation. PC hardware installation. You know what I mean. Yeah, let's do this thing. Computers still have too many cables. Got my static mat. Not as you can see great. It's sort of hard to see black on whatever. Yeah, not great. I'm still figuring this out. I need to find a good source of. I need to find good like Velcro cable ties because I hate the little plastic ones. I'm very glad that I saved the box from the EVGA power supply, so returning this much easier. I do try to keep like all of the, you know, gear for my computer like in one place. So I've usually got it in like, you know, whatever the most recent motherboard box is that I have. And so I was figuring that once I, you know, finished setting this up, I was gonna sort of condense the, you know, remaining power supply cables into the box for the computer, and then get rid of the box. But fortunately, I discovered pretty quickly the noise issue. So I do also have, I have one more cable on order. It's coming from Amazon. It's just like a Molex to SATA power, because I've got like a number of add-on cards in here. I've got like a Wi-Fi Bluetooth, because the motherboard I'm using is a Z370 chipset. Didn't have it built in, and I've also got a USB extension. I got it originally because I needed an extra USB header, internal USB header, because the old build had a memory card reader, you know, like 3.5 inch memory card, 3.5 inch bay memory card reader for my camera. But I haven't been using my camera a whole lot. People have mostly like standardized on SD cards at this point rather than the compact flash my camera uses. So when I upgrade finally, I will like, it'll be a pretty standard thing. Like just like the USB readers for the memory cards are fine. Like it doesn't need to, I don't need a built-in one for that. So I had hoped, you know, I had been looking, I had hoped that I might be able to find a case with the mesh front and like two, you know, either like two 5.25 inch bays or a 5.25 inch bay and a 3.5 inch bay external. But it became rapidly became clear that that was like just not going to happen. So I decided that it was easier for me to live without the card reader than the Blu-ray drive. So that worked out all right. That was a trade-off. That was a concession to the modern world I was all right making. I really hate I don't know, Kyle at Bitwit like really hates Molex, and I'll be honest, I don't understand why. Like, I really hate the SATA power connectors. Like this one, just like, they're so fragile. This one broke off, so like, and it's going back to Newegg that way. So like, sorry Newegg. I'm sure that they'll go over it and replace that before anybody else gets it. Or at least I hope they will. It's a fine power supply if you don't mind it sounding like a leaf blower most of the time. Like while you're gaming, for instance. So the funny thing is, because I was like curious, because I thought the problem might be a power issue or something, I've had the computer, both the previous case and the new one, plugged into the wall through one of these kilowatt meters, and so I've been paying pretty close attention to how much power it's been drawing, and so I could get the old one up to drawing about 260 watts on the 500 watt power supply, because when I was running Folding at Home, and Folding at Home was running a job which was hitting both the CPU and the GPU at full blast, and so that was really not good for that system. Looking at the numbers on the PCH was getting maybe 97 degrees Celsius. It was really bad. It shouldn't get that hot. And so that was another thing that sort of convinced me that I needed a new case. But that was still only drawing 260, 270, 280 watts on a 500 watt power supply. So when I got into the system, into this new case, much better temperature regulation, and bigger power supply. I couldn't figure out why the heck the power supply fan was spinning up. You look at the graph on EVGA's site for what it's supposed to, what the noise of what the noise emissions of the power supply are supposed to be, and the fan's not supposed to turn on, or the power supply fan's not supposed to turn on until 50%. So I'm drawing, with this benchmark, I'm drawing 160, 180 watts measured at the wall, the whole system, and yet the fan is kicking up. So I'm, eco mode is turned on, the whole deal. So I'm just really not sure what's going on. Maybe I got a defective power supply. Maybe I'm holding it wrong. Really not sure what's going on. But hopefully this Be Quiet fan or this Be Quiet power supply will not have that problem. Oh goodness, this motherboard cable is tight. Here we go. This whole saga started because I accidentally bricked my old motherboard. So I've played around with Star Citizen. It is what it is. Star Citizen is gonna Star Citizen. And one of the recent updates, they've added sort of planet-side locations, finally, and enough planet-side locations to be interesting to wander around in. So at the very beginning of the pandemic, I was maybe I'll go try to hang out in this bar on one of these planets because I need to be around other humans, even if they're virtual humans. And so that was the beginning of all this. And so I go there, or I load the game up, and it's never performed great on any of my systems, but performance got to the point where it was just unplayable. And so I was okay, what's going on here? What's wrong? Started researching it, and it looked I found like Star Citizen it doesn't update very well, but they've got this site where you log in and you can go look at like your system specs compared to like the specs of everybody else who plays Star Citizen and how they compare. And it was clear that like my system was underpowered, and I had like upgraded the GPU hoping that would help, and a while back that was when I went from the 960 to the 1660 because video cards finally came back from their Bitcoin crypto mining induced ridiculous prices, and so I got the 1660, hoped that would help. 1660 didn't help. Finally found this site, this site that Star Citizen runs to like tell how your system stacks up. It became clear that the problem was not the video card. Video card is like on the low side, but it's it's sort of like around their like recommended specs actually. Problem was the CPU. I was running an older i5, and so I went looking to like what it would take to upgrade that, and I could put a newer, I could put a like sort of the top of the line i7, the top of that generation i7, which is like probably like 7th generation i7 into it, so it became clear that I wanted an i7, not an i5, because cores, hyperthreading, and I wanted, and the best I could put in that motherboard, which was the 270, I think, was the sort of like top of that generation's i7. But I had to do a BIOS update in order to make that work because I was running an old BIOS. So I attempted to upgrade the BIOS because I was like, I just got laid off. I don't know what's going on with my life or my job or the world, but like BIOS update should be straightforward. It should be easy. I've done it before and it's fine, and so I can do that, and then I can decide whether I want to upgrade the CPU or not. And the BIOS update did not go fine. Maybe I needed to set the settings back, set the BIOS settings back to factory before I did the upgrade. Maybe I needed to upgrade the BIOS like from the BIOS rather than from Windows. I don't know, but like at any rate, did the BIOS upgrade. It seemed to go fine. Rebooted the computer and it didn't even post, and it was stuck in like, I don't remember what the code was. It was like this thing was hard, this thing was hard dead, and I like went and found a bunch of forum threads which said, oh yeah, this happens, you've got to go like contact EVGA support, get them to send you a new BIOS chip, which is like a little bit ridiculous, but whatever. And rather than do that, I decided I was going to buy a new motherboard, and discovered in the process that I could buy a new motherboard and pay the same amount for a motherboard and a new i7. I don't remember which one this is. It's like an 8700K maybe, nothing like particularly fancy, but buying for the same price as buying the old processor would have been, just the old processor. So I think I maybe should have just planned it, maybe should have just done that to start. But so that's where this whole saga started. So Star Citizen now runs, it runs as well as Star Citizen has ever run. The problem is now not my hardware, the problem is now like their scripting. So that's at least an improvement of a kind. All right, I think I've got all the power supply cables out. Well, now let's get the power supply itself out. I've got 2 more screws to go on this. And here we are. Still a very nice power supply. Yeah, if you don't mind the noise. All right, deal with the screws, packaging this all up to return in a minute. Do I need to, is there some issue with the dust filter? So I dust filter seems fine. I mean, it's probably the airflow is probably not great, and I could consider taking it off, but it's on there for a reason, and there should be enough, I don't know, it doesn't seem like it should be a serious issue. There's also nothing between the power supply and the front of the case, because I don't have any 3¼ inch internal drives in here anymore. I've successfully finally totally eliminated all of the hard drives in systems that I interact with on a daily basis. It's not quite true. The PS4 still has a mechanical hard drive, but they've done enough optimization there that it doesn't count. The PS4 is I hadn't owned any kind of modern gaming console before this pandemic. I had an old PS2 that I picked up because I thought I wanted to play some of those old games, and discovered that I mostly didn't, because I'm not too precious about graphics, as you can tell from the not exactly top of the line components I run, but I am apparently at least but that's old PS2 games are apparently a bridge too far for me. So the other thing is that then I got a PS3, but that one also had real bad noise issues, as you may recall, and so I mostly didn't use it. I did finally go fix them with a knife. One sec. So I did finally go and replace the thermal compound on the PS3's CPU, and that has markedly improved the noise issues. But by that point I had, I think, lost the momentum on it. Although I do have some games that I would like to play there that I will probably go back to. But the pandemic happened. I was spending a lot of time stuck at home, and I really wanted to play Horizon Zero Dawn, and as well as The Last of Us, the first one. And those are, Horizon Zero Dawn is coming to PC pretty soon. It may, I think it's August, so it's within a few weeks. But I just didn't want to wait. I just finished. So I played through all of The Witcher 3 on the PC, which was fun. And I never really had a thing for 60-hour RPGs before. I'd never really had time or energy to do them, But it's a pandemic. Suddenly I have way too much time and way too much energy, and not enough outlets for it. So I finished that. I liked it, although by hour 30, I was really ready to be done, and move on to something else. Ooh, this is nice. See? Isn't this snazzy? Yeah, I like this. So I had, gotten the taste for long RPGs and really wanted to play Horizon Zero Dawn, and it didn't want to wait for it to come out on PC. And another one of these, needing to track down the hardware, Woot found a bundle on Woot, the PlayStation exclusive bundle with Horizon Zero Dawn, The Last of Us, first one remastered, and God of War, and so that seemed the right the right thing to pick up, so I did. And I just finished Horizon Zero Dawn a week or two ago, and really, really enjoyed it. I probably put like 100 hours into that. Have gone back and done some of the like, a lot of the sort of like side questy stuff. I'm doing all of the I'm gonna go do the DLC, the Frozen Wilds DLC. Just really, really enjoyed it. Really well done. So there's some schmutz on here. I don't know what's going on with that. I need my spudger. It's funny. You every sort of thing that you do has certain tools which are particular to it, and you become attached to them. And I lost my good spudger a while back, which is these little it's literally just a piece of plastic. Sometimes maintenance manuals for like laptops will sometimes refer to them as like non-marking, non-conductive pry tools or something. It's like literally just a piece of plastic, with a pointed one end and like a flat other end that you use for getting into sort of like press fit electronics. But it turns out that there are like good and bad ones of these. This is one of the good ones. And I had one of these before and I lost it, and I was really sad about that. And the bad spudger was just like not as good as the good spudger. So I went and finally went and on Amazon bought myself a good spudger, except because it's Amazon, and because this is probably costs this costs pennies to make. This is like, if this is 10 cents of plastic, I'll be very surprised. So they sell them in packs, but a late friend of mine, I just learned at the memorial service for a late friend of mine, very much missed, that he was fond of telling friends that if you cannot find your tool, you don't have enough instances of it. So now I have enough instances of good spudgers, and I will always be able to find a good spudger when I want one. So this spudger's for you, Carl. All right, great. Warranty void if removed, great. Don't want to take apart the power supply. There's a lot of stuff in here that can do real damage to you. Wow, look at those caps. I don't know if I hold this up, if you'd be able to see, like, capacitors in here. It says it's like 270 microfarad, but it's like, the top is the size of a quarter. Jeez, nice. All right. I'm a washed-up electrical engineer. I really wanted to do this sort of joint electrical engineering computer science major in college, and really just couldn't hack the math in my EE classes. And then in my 5th year, finally came to the realization that my friends who had graduated and gone on to EE jobs were working for big blue chip semiconductor companies and miserable. And my friends who had graduated and gone on to software jobs were working at Google and getting free food, really good free food and massages. And this was back in 2008, 2010. And I was like, why am I putting myself through all of this misery to get a job that I'm going to hate? And so that was when I switched to be pure CS. But I took enough of the electrical engineering classes and I absorbed just enough to be dangerous, both to myself and others. So I try to avoid that when I can. All right, I'm gonna get you seated in here, and then we will get these cables installed. Yeah, looks nice. Yeah, they did a nice job on the industrial design. Actually, because this installs from the side, maybe I want to put the cables in the outside and then wait to fully seat it. I'm going to give that a try, especially since I'm doing these cable extensions. We'll see how it goes. It's just white text on black. It's kind of vertical. It's hard to read. That part I don't love. Um, trying to, you see this? With it in my case the way it is, I'm going to be like trying to read these labels backwards and upside down. It's like I'm not sure about that. All right. So yeah, we're going to do this outside, especially since I've got these extensions. And in fact, I think what we're going to do is we're going to install these extensions. We're going to install this stuff from the front, feed it through to the back, plug it into the power supply, plug the cables into the power supply, and then go from there. So yeah, I just want to make sure I don't get any of these things mixed up. So I'm only going to install 2 of these fancy cables. There are only really 2 cables that you can see that I want to be this like. So these are like neat. I don't know. I thought they were cool. A little different than the like, sort of like, you know, every other thing that was it Cable Mod had going on, and any, you know, at any rate, Cable Mod cables could not be had for love or money because of the pandemic, and so it just like this was felt like the right thing to line up with. I wonder, do I want the clear or the black for these? Maybe I can figure it out once I get it installed. Let's go with black to start. These cable comes. I've never worked with these fancy cables. I've never, yeah. Learning experience. Learning experiences all around today. Let's see, this end is the end that goes into the power supply cable, and this end is the end that goes into the motherboard. Great. I think, what's this keyed in here? So this is going to go in here this way, and yeah, perfect. All right, this is to the top. Unless I want this to the bottom. Well, I'll install it on the top first, and we'll see how it looks, and then so you can tell from like, I don't know, my system and my apartment and my dress and my like general demeanor, I like do care about aesthetics quite a bit, frankly, but I also care a lot about functionality, and usually function will trump form, although I'm very detail oriented, and so I do try to get the details right, even if, you know, like, you know, not gonna, you know, this is not gonna be like a, you know, show floor PC at like Computex or whatever, and it doesn't need to be, like, that's not the business that I'm in, but I do want this to be, off by 1 error, I do want this to be like, I don't know, you know, I'm you know, I don't really have people around a whole lot, but I'm staring at it all the damn time. And so I want it to be, you know, nice. I want it to make me happy. And messy, ugly, like annoying, like frustrating things don't make me happy. When, you know, things out of place don't make me happy. And so I'm willing to invest some in aesthetics. Like, you know, I don't have people over ever. That's, well, you know, not because I don't like people or don't want to have people. I think that it's better to have the flat comb or the sort of like comb teeth. I almost like the comb teeth look just because it's different. I don't know, like I've been watching a lot of these, like I said, I've been watching a lot of like tech YouTube, and like they do cool stuff, but it does also all feel like kind of the same. Like you look at these, like, you know, ARGB is the like thing, and you look at them and you're kind of like, well, it's you know, this ARGB rig looks a lot like the last ARGB rig, like, yeah. And so that's why I, you know, my problem with the reason that I am, yes, I think I'm gonna put this on the other side just because I like it better. We'll see if I change my mind once I get this in the case, but just, I don't know, the top of this just kind of looks, I think that the top of this actually looks less good. Like I think that looks cheaper and like yeah. I don't know. All right. I think my problem with fashion is that I'm just like I get bored easily. And so I'm not up on all of. I'm sort of like intentionally not up on all of the latest trends, despite because they just like all look same. So yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Like, there's some of the stuff that I think is pretty neat. I certainly like. I think that there's a lot of cool stuff that could be done with like the ARGB stuff that folks haven't really tapped into yet. Oh yeah, this looks good. I don't know. It almost looks sort of like music notes or like music staff or something. Yeah, I don't know. I'll get this in here and see what it looks like. Yeah, great. I am a little sad. The lighting in here is not great. When I was building this, I did it similarly, sort of over sunset, and wound up like, once I lost the light from the big window over there, like wound up like doing a lot of, sort of like tilting this case and holding it at weird angles, with one corner on the the mat, in order to be able to see what the heck I was doing and get everything in here properly. So, wow, this is the EVGA cable like took this bend decently. This is not as much. Maybe that's okay. It's not looking not like terrible. It's not like not wild about it. Maybe I need another cable comb. I bet I need another cable comb right on the other side of it. Okay. Yeah. Ooh boy. Back of this is gonna interesting. We will figure it out. Another without some kind of zip tie sort of thing, getting the back of this closed is going to be kind of a nightmare, I bet. I might have to break down and use the might have to break down and use the plastic zip ties for the moment, just in order to be able to put this thing back together. We shall see. So after the experience of bricking the motherboard, I've been like super sort of like super sort of worried about like not putting a lot of like not putting too much pressure on like motherboard components in order to like avoid needing to do another replacement like that, because like motherboard, I guess only the motherboard was only like I guess like 150 something. Motherboard was relatively cheap, and I suppose that I could upgrade to one with a built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth card if I really wanted to, but it's like money. The less money I spend right now, the better. Which is of course why I'm like buying all of this computer hardware, but like trying to keep myself sane. So that's also the reason that I'm doing this today, is that I like finished all of my paid work for the week last night, which is good. I like getting paid, paying me well, so that makes me happy, or they will once, but it's sort of like contracty stuff, and so lag in it, and I don't really have anything lined up right now, so I get to play a little bit like this. Working my network a little bit to find more stuff like that, but this is sort of like work samples for like a head of security role, and so they're actually like super great that they're paying me for the work sample, because oftentimes places don't, and that like really sucks. I'm gonna spend, I figure I spent on this like probably like 8-10 hours. Yeah, like it was like two like really solid days of work. And so, if I'm gonna spend, so that like, it was like 8 or 10 hours of actually working, but like in an office job, you're not like, you've got like meetings and emails and stuff, all of that stuff takes up hours too. You're not like sitting there all the time producing, productive stuff. You're like eating lunch at the water cooler or whatever. And so like, I figure that, like any day that I get, in an office job, any day that I get 4 hours of like actual like, heads down work done is a good day. And so, yeah, for this thing, doing like, like 2 solid days of work. It's like getting paid for that is really nice. Says good things about this organization, makes you much more excited about working for them. So that's nice. Yeah, all right. I think that this looks good. I'm not quite sure how we're gonna get this. Oh goodness. Yeah. No, we're gonna have to do some actual zip tying. Sorry. So the back of this is still gonna be a mess, but I'll go back later and clean it up. I think that I don't remember where these zip ties came from. They might have come with the EVGA power supply. Well, they're not getting returned back to Newegg. Sorry, Newegg. What's the chirality on this? It's like in order to like change this, then I'm gonna have to come back in here and snip them. Like Velcro would be better. I will get some Velcro on Amazon. If anybody knows, can recommend a brand of Velcro zip ties, drop it in the comments, please. Or like, what search terms to use even. Still figuring a lot of this stuff out. Ugh. Maybe I want to just use wire ties, there we go. This will hold for now. I think I'm probably gonna do things with wire ties, because that was just like not good. Yeah. All right. Yeah. The review I saw of this from Kyle Bitwit said that like this did not these Asia Horus extensions did not take bends very well. He was very, very right. Oh, right, great. So that's the lower cable down. Now we're gonna do the EPS cable for the graphics card. Are you labeled, your ends labeled? There's some, not the EPS cable for the graphics card, PCIe cable for the graphics card. There's some complication where like the PCIe and 8-pin EPS use like the same pin out, but different connections. I hope I'm getting this right. And if any kind of information in the box, tell me. Well, you do not look the same. definitely different ends. I guess these are also the ones that will come to the power supply anyway. Well, I guess what I could do, the EVGA lets them have really nicely labeled cables in general. So this says VGA-GA, which sounds promising. And does this fit? This does not fit this cable, and does fit this cable. So I think I found it does fit this cable. So okay, so this is the one for the graphics card. Let's see what we have here. So my hope with these like black and white cables, I wasn't sure what color to go with, but my hope with these black and white cables is that they'll look really good. You know, if and when I get like some kind of case lighting in here. So yes, this is for the graphics card. Great. Yeah, there we go. All right, so they are keyed differently. Thank goodness. Like electronics manufacturers are pretty good about that. In fact, like sometimes they're too good. Like this is another of my frustrations. So I think I got distracted from finishing this story. So I've got another cable coming from Amazon, which is a Molex to SATA cable for the USB card I've got here, USB expansion card I've got here, and I'm a little bit annoyed at needing to use like Molex to SATA. I think that this has Molex on one of its SATA things, so it doesn't really make a difference. I got confused and was thinking about the that there was a possibility that I would be able to like not have a use one fewer of the modular power cables, power supply cables, but that was with the old EVGA power supply. But there are two things. So there are a bunch of things in this case that plug into the USB headers on the motherboard. They're like, quite frankly, too many things. So there's the front panel USB, which uses a USB 3 cable. Then there's the USB-C, which also uses a USB 3 cable. And so I got to looking at the pinouts I don't know, I just like plugged everything because this motherboard thankfully has two USB 3 headers and one USB 2 header, which is great. My previous motherboard didn't have one or the other of those, and so that's why I had to get the USB expansion card, at least initially. And then I discovered that it's really nice to have extra USB ports in the back because, like, again, cables everywhere. I've got the front panel USB 3 plugged into one of the USB 3 headers, the USB-C plugged into another of the USB 3 headers, and the Bluetooth Wi-Fi card plugged into the USB 2 header. And I've still got a free header on this, USB 3 header on this expansion card. But I had a moment as I was putting this together where I looked at the USB header cable, USB 2 header cable from the see if I can pull this out to show you. The USB 2 header cable from the Bluetooth Wi-Fi card, and realized that only half of these wires. This is a 9-pin DuPont connector, but only half of these wires. It only has 4 wires coming out of it on the backside. And I was like, oh, that tickled something in my brain. And I went and looked at the pinout for the USB 2 header on the motherboard, and USB is a 4-wire protocol. I don't know if that's exactly what you would call it, but like USB uses only 4 wires. You've got positive 5 volts power, you've got a positive data pin, you've got a negative data pin, and you've got a ground pin. Because USB, I think it's called differential signaling. It like the positive data pin and the negative data pin are like sending the same signal. Like it's the difference in those voltages, which is what makes the signal. If I like went and read the Wikipedia page for this, I would remember more of it from my EE days. But so USB only needs 4 pins, meaning there are 2 USB ports on this USB 2 header. But the Bluetooth card only needs 1, but it's got this full header, so I can't plug anything else in. I thought, that's wasteful. I've got 2 USB ports on my motherboard, but I can only use one of them. So if I wanted to plug in like an LED controller or a fan controller or something, I would have to like find some way to do that. I'll get to the ways that people have found to solve this in a minute, because they're kind of cursed. But so then I went and looked at USB 3 pinout, because the USB 3 header is like twice the size of the USB 2 header, and in fact USB 3 is still a 4-wire protocol. There are 4 USB 3 ports on the USB 3 header, but the front panel USB is only using 1 of them, and because the case manufacturers, the way they've set it up is with separate USB 3 cables for the front panel and the USB-C, that means that there are 8 USB 3 ports available on the motherboard, and I can only use 3 of them. So I thought, well, that's ridiculous. Surely someone has, created a splitter. So I went and searched on Amazon. I searched a little bit on Alibay. I think it was Alibay. One second, I'm gonna try to reinstall this. Moment of silence for me figuring out which direction it's keyed. Here we go. Pretty sure this is it. This little Phoenix flashlight takes a standard AAA battery. It's basically just a tube of metal around a AAA battery with a LED on top. This is great. This is incredible. I do not know what I would do without it. I use it for everything. It comes everywhere with me. It's the best. I never got into tactical flashlights like other of my friends did, but this is more than enough for me. And it comes everywhere with me. The best flashlight is the one that you have. It means I don't need to use my phone. Can I crap? All right, here we go. USB 2 headers installed. So, and install it into the. Here we go. Wi-Fi Bluetooth card. All right. Great. So as I was saying, went and searched on various online marketplaces for internal USB header splitters, and sure enough, people have are aware that this is a problem. RGB is becoming super popular, and lots of people are running out of internal USB ports suddenly, which they were never a thing before. Imagine having an internal, I guess internal serial ports are totally a thing. But having an internal parallel port or something on a motherboard, it's just from the days of computing that I came up in, it's just ridiculous. So people totally solved this problem, and the way that they solve it is you've got a card which is a little USB hub, and you plug the USB 2 header, for example, into that card, and then it gives you 2 more USB headers. Funny thing is, the cable that they use to connect from the motherboard header to the USB 2 hub only has 4 wires. It's only using one of the goddamn ports. You can get a 4-way USB splitter, which is literally just 2 of those cards. They didn't cut down the middle, so you have 2 little USB hubs. They're unpowered. You don't need to get power to them because it's ridiculous. But and then that has a cable coming out of it with a USB 2. But that cable is a USB 2 header for the motherboard with two cables coming out of it, two 4-pin cables coming out of it, and 4-pin connectors on the end of it. So now you're using both of the USB ports on that header, but you don't need the hubs. So it's just early, as far as I can tell, as far as I can figure, you shouldn't need the hubs. So it's just ridiculous. It's like over engineered, or it's like a lot of these things where it's just like where it's just like it's easier to, we've already got these, USB hubs, and it was easier to just like take that and make that an internal card than just like not put an enclosure on it and put some different headers on it and like call it a day, than to like. So also I think like getting the keying right on there's no standard for a single port internal USB port, and like there probably should be, and like maybe in the fullness of time like people will start using those like splitter cables, and just like putting a 4-pin connector with the right pinout on their devices, but we don't live in that world yet, and it's a little frustrating that we're stuck in this world where I've got 10 USB ports on my motherboard, and I can only use 3 of them because nobody standardized the damn connectors. The path dependence of technology is just deeply entertaining. Speaking of which, what am I doing right now? I'm busy reinstalling this USB cable into a PCIe Wi-Fi card, which I think is because Bluetooth needs to many Bluetooth devices are actually human interface devices, things like mice, keyboards, headphones, that kind of thing, and they need to talk to the and I think that Bluetooth is actually hooking into the USB human interface device spec, USB HID spec. and what's the best way to do that? You're not, rather than running the signals, that information down the the PCIe port, they just connect to the internal USB header because it's easy, because that gets you hooked into the USB HID stack for free. And so that's also entertaining to me. And I suppose that if you wanted to do that while if you wanted to do that through the PCIe bus rather than through the USB bus, you would need to put a little USB hub on the PCIe device. Put a PCIe USB hub on it, and that would increase the cost and complexity and all that sort of stuff. So anyhow, that's hilarious. But I also have a mind to go these DuPont connectors are everywhere. Adafruit will sell you 50 of them for $10, $20, something like that. So I have half a mind to go make my own USB splitter. If I could find that damn cable, it would be a lot easier. But I haven't yet figured out how to find just that cable alone and not that cable with the USB hub that I don't want. So anyhow, Angry Engineer Petty. Yeah, okay, I think that doesn't look great, but I'll leave it for now. I wanted to route the USB cable behind my graphics card because my graphics card touches up right against I think that's the PCH under that big heatsink, the front side bus. We used to call it the North Bridge and the South Bridge. That might actually be the South Bridge, what interfaces with all of the rest of the world. And I can never remember what the acronym, what we call that anymore these days, or what Intel calls it anymore these days. Pretty sure that's the PCH, primary something. I don't know. Anyway, great. So USB cable is reinstalled. Great. Those are both fan headers. I'm gonna need to reinstall okay, good. No, all the front panel. I think all the front panel No, the audio did get disconnected. I'm gonna have to install that. Great. All right. Yeah, there we go. HD audio. Want to do that now? I'll do it now while I'm thinking about it. Now while I've got the flashlight out and I'm like fucking around with the stuff. Oh, this. That's right. I'll reinstall the SATA cable. The SATA cable is to the Blu-ray drive. I'll reinstall that once what do you call it? When I, at the same time as I reinstall the SATA power cable. There we go. This is gonna run over here. Yes, I'm not like super, I don't know. Every time I like find myself worrying too much about ketchup and mustard cables or what have you because I've been watching so much of this YouTube, I tell myself like this is a working system. This is not a show floor system, and it's fine if everything is not like perfectly pretty the way your YouTube, these YouTuber stars are worrying about. But like, I don't know. Like things that look nice, that look clean. Although the downside of everything being blacked out is that I need to get out the damn flashlight in order to see what the hell I'm doing, because otherwise it's black on black on black. Yeah, really, I was like, I should probably not swear on stream just in case there are some like Twitch rules about that, and like that is obviously totally that ship was obviously totally sailed. So sorry Twitch. Sorry YouTube. I will bleep things if necessary once I go read their content rules. Not swearing is not something, it turns out, that I'm very good at. Not great. It's a little cabley. It's a little spaghetti. A lot of cable. All right, but it's good enough for now. So now I've got to figure out how to route this damned. Again, there I go again. This damned PCIe cable. This was the whole start of this, by the way. I would have been fine with all of the other cables, but it was a PCIe cable and the Molex cable for the USB that were just like driving me nuts, because the power supplies all ship with these like obnoxious and awful like 17 different Molex connectors on the same thing, and there was no way I could install it that it would look clean. There was no way I could tuck the extra Molex connectors into the power supply shroud or whatever. It was just like not going to work. And same with the PCIe cable, and it just looked nasty. It was bad, real bad. So I think run this out this side. How am I gonna? Yeah, seems not wrong. This would also not be wrong, because I'm not using that SATA port. You can't see how I'm doing, but I think if I turn this around, you wouldn't be able to see anything. Yeah, no. Sorry about it. I'll show you the finished product, and just continue ranting about USB cables in the meantime. I hope that's what you're here for, because that's what you're getting. And I did say I was going to rant about power supplies, and I already did that, so, gotta find something else to rant about. I'm trying to rant less in my life. It doesn't always work. All right. Yeah. Well, yeah, again, the back of this is winning no awards. What I'm going to do is twist ties. I've got a twist tie over here. So I'm going. So these because I'm able to bring this out here, right next to the motherboard cable, the wire tie is in no way big enough for me to wire tie both of these cables. But if I got this twist tie, little metal twist tie, and I think I can twist tie this cable to the other cable, and that will work until I get like good Velcro wire ties. Oh dear. All right. How does that look from the front? Oh yeah, that looks pretty good. Yeah. From my usual angle of it. Yeah. Like that. All right. So the next question is whether I'm installing the EPS cable or not. I think the answer is no. I think I'm just going to run the EPS cable straight from the power supply, but we will see. Oh, also I should check and see. Good. Okay, yeah. These are just like blacked out. For the Be Quiet power supply, these are just like the blacked out cables. Kyle would not like the heat shrink, but I think it's fine. For me, I think it's fine. But so the EPS cable on this motherboard is like right up at the top back of the case, and it's I think is that what I just picked up? I hope that's what I just picked up. Well, we'll find out when it plugs in or not. I'm also really grateful that EVGA puts their logo on at least some of the ends of some of these cables, because otherwise I will get them confused and I will send you the wrong cables. So you're the CPU cable, and oh, interesting. Gen goes to the CPU. This end. Cables are hard, man. Turn this off. Battery. So I'm not sure I'm gonna do this. I'm not sure I'm gonna go with this because like you can barely see this cable. I'm not sure that I really like want to see the cable. Like tucked up back in the corner and without lighting, it's just like, you know, black on black on black, and it's just like not very not very interesting, and I don't feel compelling need to call interest to it. But we will try it just to see. It's also like I got a cable come in. I mean, it doesn't look terrible, and because these don't take bends very well, it does, like, it is more visible, but it's just like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. If I get the like power supply cable in and it looks super ugly, then I reserve the right to change my mind. But meantime, there we go. All right. Really not sure how I would figure out which of these cables go with which without the power supply cables. I guess I could use the big power supply cables, which also look like. They're not labeled. These are not labeled as well as the EVGA cables are. That's unfortunate. All right, so I think that we're ready. I think that we've got the like fancy fun part done. So I'll actually pull this down so you can see what I've been working on, griping about this whole time. I think it does actually look pretty good. I might need to. Yeah, I'm gonna pull this. I am gonna have 3 cable cones out here after all. Oh well. let me pull you down. See what I've been working on. Here is the inside of the build. There's the motherboard cable over there, CPS, the PCI, I keep calling it PCIe cable over here. You can kind of see up here, like if I shine a light back in, like up here, the corner is sort of where the EPS cable for the CPU goes, and it's just not, yeah, it's fine. So that's what I've been doing, and then now it's time to get the power supply in, the power supply cables in rather. So I guess I will keep doing the same thing. I'll go install the EPS cable, go put these back in the box that they came in. May as well keep them together, because like, who knows, I may change my mind about some of these things someday, or install different stuff in the case and wind up needing different power connectors and wanting fancy ones rather than the ones that came with the power supply. And so be nice to have them, nice to still have them around. All right, I don't always read the manual, but I am going to try to at least skim this one. Yeah, there's just not a whole lot going on here. It's also really interesting, the like grill on it. It's like, a lot of these power supplies, they're doing like fancy, fancy patterns. You've got this thing with the EVGA 1, which I suppose is potentially, as the Gamers Nexus guys would put it, more metal than a hole. Whereas Be Quiet just has these like really simple, sort of like wires on it, and and that really makes for the best airflow. And that's interesting that's just like, that is what gives the best airflow, is just this like really simple grill. And of course there's like this case, the case has like this hexagonal pattern on the bottom, and then the air filter, which like, I haven't actually taken the air filter out. I should just do that to double check that there's not like a piece of, like some plastic or something that's like, no, yeah, it really is just like, air filter is kind of just held on, like it's not great. Like I'm really grateful that I was able to find this case, but like the build quality is just like noticeably less good than the Sonata was, and like some of that is like subjective things that are not necessarily like, don't necessarily actually mean quality. Like, the Sonata case is heavier, and like I'm not a lifting heavy objects a lot kind of person. So that part's all right, but it's just like, the Sonata's air filters had like a frame on them, and were easily removable, and this is just like costs were cut, and that's great, but yeah, I think that it's just like it definitely feels less the build quality just like definitely feels significantly less solid, but it is what it is. And given that I will feel many fewer compunctions against like drilling holes in this and doing crazy interesting stuff to it, like I'm like, maybe can I like put a like light sensor on the front, like so that like it can dim the LEDs when it's dark out, when the lights in the room are off, so that I don't have them like blinding me when I'm gaming in the dark, like but you can still see them during the day, like that would be cool. That kind of thing. Or like, I think that I can reconfigure the front front has an air filter in it, had an air filter in it. Case ships with an air filter there. Following the lead of the Gamers Nexus guys, and because the mesh in the front actually is quite fine, I measured it and it's about 1 millimeter. So I don't know if that technically counts as extra fine mesh or not, like in some of these premium mesh front cases. But it's good enough for my purposes, and if dust turns out to be a problem, I can always reinstall the air filter again, because I still have it. But let's get some cables into this power supply. I wasn't sure I wanted a power supply shroud. I was like, what's that going to do to the airflow? Turns out I really want a power supply shroud because it means that I can hide all of this crap. All of this crap somewhere out of sight and out of mind. All right, and now I'm going to go Velcro. We do have some Velcro stuff, which is I think going to work well for this. I've got this. I'm going to need a scissors. I've got one of those too. I have some of where did I put the Velcro? Here's the Velcro. Great. So I'm just going to I've got this lovely double-sided Velcro strip. Came in a big roll and I bought bajillion years ago, and I'm just gonna wrap it up. And oh, okay, I do have some of these kinds. Well, great, problem solved. They should all be like that. They should just be a roll of little 4-inch long Velcro strips that you could just pull off like that. That would be great. Product idea, internet. Get on that. Great. This is good. This goes into the cable extension. And it doesn't need all of this. There's a lot of excess cable now, but there will not be nearly so much excess cable once I get it in the power supply in the case. So next come the SATA cables. Oh God. Did I mention that I hate SATA power connectors? I hate SATA power connectors. And I am going to need to use, crap. I don't, because this is still going to be ugly and I'm still going to have to take this down and redo this, which is going to suck. This stuff is actually nice for these power supply cables. I don't know that I would use it for the rest of these because it's sort of there's no way that the cable tie points in this case are big enough for this, but for this purpose it actually works pretty nice. Previously I was using twist ties, wire ties. This was just not great. So and I need to also run SATA data. Here we are. Here is the static. Great. And I do really love the SATA cables. I came up in the age of IDE cables. Man, I do not miss them. Great. All right. It's also real fortunate that this RAM does not get super hot because there's a lot of these cables right up in its business. But that's fine. Okay. This is the fan. Let me just tuck the fan on the back side. You can't really see it, but this way you really can't see it. Getting some kind of and controller stuff in here will also be super interesting. Oh, I guess I can't really get it because that's fine. I don't want to stress this fan header cable any more than it already is. Again, you can't see it, so great. Great, all right, this is plugged in, this is plugged in. Fan stuff is plugged in. Took me ages to figure out this fan. Oh, that's what I was saying about the front mesh. So I don't have took the dust filter out. One of the things that I played around with when I was installing this case initially was fan placement. I was curious if I could get the fans on the outside of the case, if there was enough clearance with the front panel cover, because like if I want to do LED fans, they look nicer when they're on, the front of the case and you don't have like all the radiator mounting crap, like, screwing up your lovely light patterns. And so the answer is no. Right now, I can't get these fans on the front of the case. However, the reason that I can't get the fans on the front of the case is because of the clips in the front panel for the dust filter, not because there isn't enough space there, I think. I tried it, and I'm pretty sure that that's what they're running up on. And so, if it turns out that I don't need the dust filter, because I'm just running with the mesh front panel and the mesh is good enough, like the Gamers Nexus guys say that it sometimes is, or could be, then I can maybe just Dremel those tabs in the front panel cover off, because it's like soft plastic, got a Dremel. A little bit of work to make it clean, and but they're not structural. I don't think, at least I hope. So it could be that I'll destroy my case. Could be that I'll destroy the front panel on it, but I hope not. I think not. It would be worth, if I'm willing to go take a Dremel to this case, which I think I might be, despite it having been so hard to acquire. I might give that a shot. So I'm gonna wait and see on the dust buildup issue before I do any of that. But I hope I hope to get lucky on that front. I wonder, can I? Yeah, I think I'm probably gonna need all this length. Let me get this in and then tie these cables up. All right. So the other thing that I might want the 5 1/4 inch bay for, if I do more of this streaming or video production, is you can get these bays that you can hot swap SATA 3.5 inch drives in, and so you can basically use them as removable storage with terabytes and terabytes of data, and that is pretty tempting as a way, because I don't really want to put 3.5 inch drives back in this case. It's just, I need the space under the power supply shroud for all these cables, and there are heat issues, and it's just however, having the being able to have these so yeah, if I give up on the Blu-ray drive, or I'm willing to swap it out, I could use that for video production if I wanted. All right, I think I'm gonna actually screw this in just so that it's not shifting around while I'm trying to plug stuff into it, because I don't think that I really need the extra slot there. Oh dear. Here we go. Oh, and Be Quiet also shipped me some wire ties. Not as many as EVGA did, but they look like they might be nicer wire ties. Let's see. They still look crappy plastic ones. I hear people on the internet, Kyle and the Gamers Nexus guys talking about well, you're gonna do a build and you're not gonna and then you're not gonna touch it for a few years, and I'm I don't know, I don't know who these people are.
I'm not like in and out of my case constantly, but I'm like often tweaking stuff. More often. I am. I've got to be into my case at least every at least once a year. Probably more like every 6 months. And I do kind of take a like Jason Ship approach to PCs, which is where this is still the same computer that I started with 10 years ago. I've replaced all of the parts, but it's it's still the same computer, from a philosophical standpoint. And so that's just part of it. It's also like a much cheaper way to do this, where I'm not spending $1,000-$2,000 on a new build every time. I can upgrade the CPU and the motherboard. Usually I have to upgrade those at the same time, or I upgrade the graphics card, or I upgrade, the, maybe the spinning disk becomes an SSD, or the SATA SSD becomes a M2 SSD, this kind of thing. And so I'm just constantly going through and tweaking or upgrading as I have money and time and energy and need, because I run out of space and get annoyed and discover that bigger drives have come down in price enough that I am willing to spend the money on them, or things of that nature. And so, I think I'm probably just gonna twist tie this rather than Velcro. This is the SATA cable, which turns out to be more than long enough. These cables are so long and have so many connectors. It's kind of ridiculous. And these wire ties are the wire ties are ugly, but it's the back of the case. I guess it is kind of up against the motherboard, so there's very small danger of some kind of short. All right. Got myself some Velcro and call it a day. I was a little bit hopeful. I was really kind of hoping that would be less of a thing with these modular PSUs, but apparently you need to buy custom, cables for your PSU for this. And if once I decide that I'm staying with this PSU or whatever, once cable mod stops being ridiculously backordered on everything, I would consider it, but at the same time it's not high on my priority list. Alright, I think that'll work. Great. Alright, now, next for the SSD, not you. I don't suppose I could actually run this over here, get both of these on the same SATA. That looks like it might be possible. Which I guess is why we do it like this. Clever people that they are. But yeah, okay, I think this will work. Well, that saves me one cable, which is nice. Although this one is effort. The SATA connector is facing in. Just annoying. Let me go do this bend the other way. Great. Yes. Hopefully I can make it still close. Oof. Yeah. There's also just like not a ton of clearance in the backside of this case. It's not ideal from that perspective. But or at least like I mean like I say that like I know. I really don't have anything to compare it to, but it's like you know, probably like what is this? Like maybe 3/4 of an inch behind the motherboard. So not terrible, but not what I would call roomy. Oh, and now the keying on the SATA. Alright, well, we'll see how this goes. Getting this close might still be an exciting. And I do have that, because I was able to get both of these on one cable, I do have, that does save me a little room down at the bottom, so that's good. Alright. Next problem is getting the USB drive, the USB card plugged in. Fortunately, I had a plan for that a minute ago. I think it'll still work. So, is this the one I wanted, or is... Oh, this is, speaking of retro computing, this is the, all of these power supplies include a Molex to floppy adapter, which I still haven't figured out why. That's the one I guess maybe it's for fan power if you're like not powering them off. Is this the same as like the fan header? Or maybe it's for like some kind of like add-in cards that expect it or like something like that. But that's like, can't figure it out. Like, why couldn't you ship me a Molex to, why can't you just ship me a Molex to SATA adapter rather than this thing? But, oh no, this is the one I already have set up for this. Great. Very good. I'm gonna feed this through the other side. Wow, the big white lettering on this Molex cable, HDD DVD. Although you know, because it's longer than the EVGA cable was between the Molex and the SATA cable, the other SATA or the other connectors on this cable might not actually need the Molex to SATA that's coming from Amazon. Well, we'll see. Also, I can like maybe take this sticker off, because I mean, like, what else is this going to be? Like, come on. Or I can take a Sharpie to it or something, or some black, like I have some black nail paint. That is a problem for the day. That's plugged in, so now I can plug it into the power supply. I'll be able to close this at the end. Like, see this? I'm not gonna show it to you because I don't. And maybe it's okay. Maybe this SATA connector is actually, the SATA power connector is actually angled. I always like really worry about. They're so fragile. I really worry about like I don't want to like force it too hard on my SSD and then like need to buy a new SSD or something and not even be necessarily able to easily get the data off. This one, like, that would suck. That would suck hard. Alright, next up is EPS 12 volt for the CPU. And this is a little bit of a moment of truth because before I said I was considering not using the extensions for the CPU because it's tucked up in the corner and it's not really worth calling attention to. Now that I see how this cable is set up though, oh yeah, maybe, no, okay, yeah, this should be fine. This cable has like 2 4-pin and this 8-pin, which I'm pretty sure is the one I want. Unless this is P8. Gotta label the ends of these damn cables. Come on, guys. Really not a fan of this. Oh, here we go. This says this end of the cable, the business end, the end that is going to go into the motherboard. It says CPU 1 P4, CPU 2 P8. They both. Oh, it was P8 what they're calling. Okay, so this P4 P8 is what's supposed to go to the CPU. But then this also says CPU 1 P4, CPU 2 P8. Says P8. Okay. Just extra. How do you include this info in the now plug the 12-volt P4 or P8 connector for the CPU into the socket provided on the motherboard. That's literally all they say. Only use the supplied cable set. Using cables that were not included, for example, cables of older power supply unit series may lead to defects. Funny way of saying destroying your computer. Yeah, no information. Not even a cables included in this package list, which would be nice. Pretty sure that there was one of those on the website. Let's see if it's on like the back of the box or something. Product information, computer power supply. Well, there's a QR code. If I wasn't using my phone to stream this, I could. Well, they seem to have done a good enough job on the keying that if it plugs in, hopefully it won't blow anything up. It does say it's supposed to go into the CPU, so let's hope. And it definitely doesn't fit in. And it's got this stupid split. I really don't like the stupid split things. They're just so damn hard to plug in. This video has to be kind of entertaining to watch from a certain perspective because it's just like a guy is sitting on the floor staring into a confined space and swearing a lot. Not necessarily bad, but it takes a particular kind of person to appreciate. Can I get these to latch? How do you folks who do this all the time, I suppose you learn some of this stuff, you could do it enough. I'm being dilettante as I am, this is oh, these are different lengths? No, okay, they will line up. I need to get out the hot glue like, but this actually seems like it's intentional. But because this is intended to. No, it's still not. Yeah, like it seems like this is intended. Oh, you suppose that this end is supposed to go into the power supply, and that's why it's so these are different lengths, implying that this is supposed to go in something like this, and so there's actually this is intended so that there's going to go in and there's actually going to be a curve, like. But the problem is that like in this I'm coming up straight in, and so there's none of that. Well, okay, so here's something I can do to check. I do have these extensions, which I have a little bit better understanding what they plug into. So first I'm going to try plugging you in over here. I think I need the light for. I do need the light for. Like, it's that eternal dilemma with like USB ports. Like, am I plugging it in the wrong side, or am I like just, you know, coming in at the wrong angle and struggling to. Yeah, okay, so this doesn't, is in it. And my other, is there like some like cute mnemonic for like how to remember which, okay, this goes in, good. And so now this cable that I keep trying to plug in and can't, yeah, okay, oh, no, there we go. Yep, okay. Great, and this is an extension. So that means that this should, it's, you know, there's not like keyed in any clever way. So like, yeah, this should plug straight in. And I may yet, we'll see, I may yet give up and use this extension here, but and so now, because these things are two different lengths, so it's almost like it wants to come. The other thing I can do, like Velcro strap together, like. Yeah. I think I can get enough tension on. Maybe not with Velcro, but maybe with wire tie. Should be able to like cinch this down super tight. A lot of this will be getting edited out for YouTube. A lot. Oh, and it's like running into the other thing it's doing is like running into the heat sink, the heat spreader, I think it's called on the motherboard. Get in there, you. I think it is in there, finally. Thank goodness. Whew. Yeah, there we go. All right. And these are these the tabs down? The tabs are almost spudger. It's just like we're kind of just throwing everything at this point. These lights on, it gets very warm in here. Probably gonna need to take a break in a minute. Hey. So yeah, I think, generally speaking, you want to not jam things that don't want to be jammed, but I think this was the right sort of call, and that it is in the right place, and it's just like, I guess like sometimes, new cables are also hard to, I'm gonna have to, which direction did I tie this? Here we go. Can I take this wire tie off without undoing the entire, pulling it entirely out of the socket? There we go. All right. All right, and it's still seated. That's good. That was way more trouble than it needed to be. And yeah, I think that it's just like, this bend is fine. Like, I don't think there's any reason to use the extension. Is this fully seated? Damn it. Or did my hauling on it? Yeah, it seems fine. Yeah, there's no reason to call attention to it with the fancy cables. None at all. So, great. All right. And so now I think all that's left, I hope all that's left, I get my handy dandy flashlight out. Pretty sure all that's left is to connect the motherboard cable and then try to fit the side panel on, because that will be a little bit of a feat. So yeah, this is what the side panel looks like right now. It's a little full. Okay. So, that means that this one last cable. Make sure that it's the right cable. ATX main connector. Good. The labeling on these Be Quiet cables has left something to be desired. It took me like probably the better part of 20 or 30 minutes to figure out what the right cable was to power the CPU, and then go actually get it plugged in. And it involved me using like every tool at my disposal. So yeah. And so I wondered, so this has the same thing going on as the last one. Like it's got this, it's got what looks like an intentional sort of like, these cables are different lengths in order to support some kind of like, run without, some kind of cable run without like too much kinking or whatever, I'm not sure. So does that mean like, and now this end is not labeled, and this end is labeled. And this says ATX main connector. So I wonder if I am supposed to infer that this end, one that says ATX main connector, goes to the motherboard, or would, except for the cable extension, so it goes to the cable extension. It doesn't seem obviously wrong, and so that may mean that like the reason I was having trouble with this CPU cable was that I was putting the end, which had this sort of like fan out, like weird length fan out thing, into the motherboard when it needed to go into the power supply. Except that was also the end that was labeled, whereas this end is the one that I think goes into the motherboard, and it is not, and it is labeled, and it doesn't have that fan out. I don't know. We will try it and find out. You would hope also that like the keying on these connectors would do something for that, but that has so far proven well, a lovely theory, a truly lovely theory. And this is, what is, how many, okay. Well, this side has like 2 or 4 extra pins than the motherboard cable extension, so that is not the part that goes to the motherboard. This, however, appears to have the right number of pins, and it appears to be keyed more or less correctly. Oh yeah, there we go. Now it's snapping in, and just apply a little bit of gentle pressure. Ugh. Damn it. These cables are very, not the extensions, the power supply cables are very tight. Not sure. I want precision German engineering, but I'm not sure that I want tolerances quite this tight on my cables, because otherwise I'm going to be also like really like very square, very there. Well, that's not going anywhere. Now it's in. And we still have the potential problem, which I've been worrying about for a while, of things being pretty, there being a lot of wires here and not being able to close the side panel on the case very well. So we're still going to see about that. That may yet be a problem. I think. And again, because it's this weird sort of angled thing, which direction does this, like, maybe this works better in Be Quiet's cases than in, interesting. Huh. Yeah. So this is, this cable is split, right? Like there's 2 ends to it. And I've been puzzling for hours now because this power supply has 2 connectors labeled motherboard. Has 2 connectors labeled motherboard. I was like, okay, so one of those is for the CPU and one of those is for the motherboard connector, the ATX connector, right? No. Both of those are for this cable. I guess that makes sense. I guess if I only had a 20-pin motherboard header, or however many pins that is, that would... Okay, sure. I'm not sure that I would have designed it this way, but Be Quiet did, and sure. I don't know. I think of worse ways to solve this. Like, there have to be better ways to solve this too, right? Like, here I am, down here poking. Like, I feel like it also like, okay, there we go. Here I am trying to install a black cable into a black power supply in a black case with a little pen light and down on the floor. I suppose I could also I just want to turn this over. Back in my day, when we did this kind of thing, we would almost always have the PC case open on the floor rather than vertically, but with the amount of time I spend going around and around and around the case to get these cables set up, I've been doing all of my work vertically, which has been great, except for moments like this, where, there we go. Cool. All right, well, now for the first moment of truth, which is to see whether we can get this side panel back on. And so before I do that, I guess I'll stuff this motherboard cable underneath the power supply shroud, which is going to be a, yeah, that's going to be a thing. The extensions, cable extensions do add like a lot of length. Totally unnecessary at this moment. I see now why people opt for the custom cables, which are specific for their power supply. The other thing that I could have done with this video card cable is run it to the bottom of the case. And this is something that the cable extensions make really, really good. So it's easy to undo the twist tie, the wire tie, and unplug it from the PSU cable and run it back through this cutout and run it down to the bottom of the case. Oh yeah, this looks much better. Turns out that I probably won't actually need that Molex. Right, and so there's still like kind of a Hydra sprawling out of the bottom cutout on the case, and it doesn't look great. But it just like, it is what it is. It's with these, you know, with all the front panel stuff, with the USB card, Molex, like, it's fine. And I really am gonna take a Sharpie to the HD DVD label on the Molex, because like, who the hell needs telling what that is? And then in the case, especially, you know, until I get lighting in there, it's just like not gonna be able to see, black it out. If I really need to, I'll go like paint over it or something with some epoxy, or the epoxy enamel paints I've got. I think that should be fine. That also doesn't look like great, but it's right. It's fine. You have to like actually get a bright light in there to see it now, and so it's not a big deal. Good enough. So this is in pretty good shape, and we're ready. Now we're ready for the first moment of truth, which is, does the damned thing, can I get the side panel on? And shortly, and then I will go back and like just make sure that like all the cables front are still going where they are, and then we will be ready for the second moment of truth, which is, does it turn on without exploding? Fingers crossed. The side panel mounting on this is like exactly what I'm talking about, with this case being kind of cheap. Something which like just like slips on like this should be good, but there's no like catches or anything. It's just like, it's a flat piece of metal. There's some flanges. I guess there are technically catches at the bottom, but as soon as you get it on like this, yeah, I really would like, you know, a couple extra arms. And now I've got to get the thumb screws in on the back, or this will shortly pop out, and we'll have to do that all over again. It didn't go on too hard, so you know, I think it's mostly fine. Oh, see, the other thing, I don't remember if I mentioned this or not. I don't think I did. So when I got this case, as I mentioned, I had real trouble tracking it down because I wanted the mesh front and the 5¼ inch bay. And the version of this case I wanted had the Silverstone RL05 had red trim. I wanted red trim. I had to get white trim, but when I was working inside the front panel, it looks like the trim just pops on. Like, you know, so there are 4 SKUs of this product, black with, you know, 3 of them are a black case, 1 of them is a white case, and then they have black, red, and white trim. And it looks like the trim just pops on. Like I said, it's just a plastic part. There are some little tabs inside. So if I go in, this is a mod that I'm definitely going to do as soon as I have a place where I can paint, is if I go in and I'm really careful with a spudger, I can pop the trim out and like hang up the trim pieces and paint them whatever color I want, probably using vinyl dye, which I've done before. It works great on soft plastics. It looks great. It wears great. I like highly recommend it. It winds up actually changing the color of the plastic itself, because it gets into the soaks into the plastic itself, and I think that would be great. Just, you know, take it off, vinyl dye it, pop it back on, and I can have whatever color trim I want. And so it wound up, you know, working out really, really nice that I got the white after all. And so then that will not necessarily work with the, the black and white cables anymore, and maybe I will buy new cable extensions, whether another set of these Asia Horse ones, or the cable mod ones, or whatever. But or I will wind up doing like interior lighting, and then I think the white will work better. And I could just like have the interior lights light up red or whatever, and that'll reflect off the white better than it would reflect off any other color, and that'll be great. So that's for the future. All right, so yeah, front looks good. All this stuff is like pretty blacked out, except for the cables. Cables look good. Cables look nice. These cable extensions are genuinely nice. Like highly approve. They do make the case look a little bit nicer, and I like look at it from the side, the sort of side that I'm looking at it on when I'm like actually using the computer, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is good, this is nice, this is like solid. It's not like flashy or ostentatious or anything like that, but now I just want to go double check all my connections. One of the things I hadn't realized, but I really like about this case, is that the 5 1/4 inch bay is toolless, so I can just pop this out. So I've got like one of the front panel wires accidentally got jammed in the 5 1/4 inch bay, and it doesn't look damaged. I think it should be fine. But I just want to get it out of the way of the drive so that it's not jammed in there, both for aesthetic reasons and for reasons of not lighting my computer on fire because of a broken shorted wire, because that would suck. One of the things that Tom's Hardware did not like about this case, was very salty about, was that how they had set the overcurrent protection, especially not only on the 12-volt rails, of which this has 4. I was kind of hoping to get a single rail power supply, but there's enough headroom even on the there's more than enough current on the 12-volt, any of the 12-volt rails, to run like a GTX 2080 Ti, and then with like even 10 amps of headroom if you want to like overclock it or something, if I wanted to overclock it. But they were also salty about, they also thought that the overcurrent protection was set too high on the like minor rails, like the 5-volt rail. And so I don't fully understand what's going on there. I think, given my earlier complaints about Tom's misuse of statistics, I think I'm willing to, I decided that I was willing to trust the German engineers on that one, because that's not the kind of thing I think that they would leave to chance. If they did that, they've got a damn good reason for it. But I did note that in passing. So we'll just like make sure that that wire is not crimped, so as to avoid me ever discovering why that such high overcurrent protection is a bad idea in this case. So this is sort of the perspective from where I'll be sitting most of the time, and yeah, that looks nice. That looks solid. That looks, I don't know if professional is the word, but it just looks like it looks enough like the things that I've been watching on computer hardware YouTube that I don't feel embarrassed by it. I might tweak the cable combs a little bit, or like attention to fine detail. There's like definitely more stuff that I can do, definitely more stuff that I will do, but like, yeah, this is solid. I like it. Great. I've always wanted a computer case with a window. I'm not gonna lie. That was my one disappointment with the Ranting Sonata, even when I initially got it. And I always thought about like trying to either like learn how to use the appropriate machine tools to like cut a window casing, or the appropriate hand tools, but I just never got around to it.
Also, like, I mean, you can see, so usually I have a third monitor up here. I discovered as I've been working on this that, like, I can't see the side of my case. I can't see in the window if I've got that third monitor up there. And I, like, do use the third monitor, you know, some. This is, like, mostly a gaming computer. But, like, I'll have, you know, a web browser in one window and, like, a chat thing in another window. Like, I like, appreciate the screen real estate. So, you know, and the desk is not super big. I've got this, like, pillar here, and so it's just not, like, you know, there's just not a ton of free space. But since I've been in and out of this computer a ton, and, like, you know, trying to figure out the fan situation, you know, why does it sound like a leaf blower? I've had I actually just, like, took the third monitor out because, like, it's not, you know, otherwise I was, you know, banging up against it constantly. So I will eventually put it back, and then I won't be able to see the window again. And so maybe all of this, like, lights and stuff that I have, you know, hopes and dreams for will be for naught. Or I will, like, get a different, you know, or I will, like, get a different monitor, which is something that I have considered but don't currently have a need for. So it's like, all right, well, power switch on the power supply is turned on. Oh, and we've got a light inside. That's good. That's important. No, like, fizzing and popping. And here we go. Yay. It's still very quiet. Whoops. Please power down and connect the PCIe power cables for this graphics card. Oops. Well. So remember how long we spent trying to figure out what cables to use? Probably what this means is that I have the wrong cable extension installed. I guess the easy way to test that is to go pull the cable all the way up from the input. Oh, ha! There we go. See, there we go. Problem identified. The cable extension is not plugged in. Oh dear. Well, at least let's say that's an easy fix. So turn the power supply back on again. Have the LEDs again. And press the power button again. Alright. Ooh, we're getting post beeps. That's good. And we're getting graphics out. The wow. Yeah. It is super quiet. It is on, and it is on, and it's booting, and it's working. So let's go. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Probably a little far away. It's like, I can hear it, right? Like, it's definitely, whoops. It just kicked up. No? Okay, good. No, it's back down again. Huh. It's really struggling. He's supposed to, I wonder if the air filter is just like, dust filter is just like starving it. So it's not like, I mean, this is definitely better. This is way better. It doesn't have that high frequency whine that the other one did. You know, temps are all, GPU's at 76. It wasn't hitting more than 72 last time. It's also, I guess that this is the way the quiet computer goes, is that you are, like, constantly, like, every time you solve one source of noise, you wind up with another, you know, loudest thing in your case until you're like, until it's like, you know, the vibration of, you know, the vibration of air molecules from heat is like the largest source of noise in your case. I'm sure that liquid nitrogen can help fix that. Yeah, no, this is still, like, this is playable. That's a good question. I'll rerun this benchmark and see. I'm curious to see at the wall how much power is being drawn, because with the EVGA power supply, it was drawing about 180, like between 140 and 180. Drawing 64 watts right now. Now we're up to 187, 188. Oh, something just kicked in. Still like 190, 192, 193. It was amazing what a difference, what a perceptual difference the new case made in terms of how this benchmark ran. I wasn't expecting that, but like the heat throttling was like costing me frames. Yeah, so it was like 190 for most of that, 190 watts, the whole thing, and that's just the CPU, not the monitors or any of that other stuff. Just the tower, just the object under test. 189, 192, yeah. Okay, so that really just seems to be like what this draws in a gaming workload. Like I mentioned, I was seeing like 260 when I was running Folding at Home, and Folding at Home had both CPU and GPU jobs running. So yeah, 190, okay. Yeah, all right, this is much better. The rear, oh, that's you get the neat strobe effect looking at the rear fan through the front fan, which always trips me up because it looks like it's spinning really slowly, but it's just yeah, great. All right, I think I've proven my point to myself. Yep, this was a good upgrade. This is an actually silent power supply, not a Tom's Hardware silent power supply. Quiet, I should say. I can hear it. Like, I can bring this up here, right? Oh well, it's over. This was good. Yeah, was worth the effort. Still some work to do, and definitely some aesthetic RGB to do. But yeah, no, solid, real solid. Yeah, like you can maybe hear it. Pull it over. It's definitely quieter than it was. Staring at the rat's nest of cables in the back of my computer. 77 is where the GPU topped out. Okay. So it's running a little hotter than it was. Maybe I suppose it's. So the old power supply was I wonder if that's related to how much current it's drawing. Because the old power supply was a single rail design. The new one is 4 rail. I really wanted to get the top of the line one. I was like, I'm going to shell out for it, which lets you choose whether you do single or multi-rail, and like apparently multi-rail is safer. And so I suspect the reason that the overcurrent settings are set the way they are, that Tom's Hardware didn't like, is in order to allow you to make it still allow you to overclock on this, some despite the multi-rail design, but alright, well anyway, I'm gonna go screw around with this more later. Do this off stream. Thank you all for watching. Stuck around any portion of this, or you're catching it on YouTube. Very much appreciated. This is my humble contribution to hardware YouTube, computer hardware YouTube. Would say like and subscribe, although I'm not necessarily sure I'm going to be doing this again. Probably be doing other things. I have plans for other sorts of content. If you're interested in aviation accidents, like I'm hoping to do some content on that. Very different than this. These are both things that I am interested in and do. So that's where this comes from. Just kind of everything at once here. So yeah, thanks for watching. Till next time.